King of Podcasts Radio Network proudly presents the Broadcasters Podcast. Here is the King of Podcasts.
So there's a number of stories we can go into this week that are really catching up to the box office, to streaming services, and to the news media because they're all struggling. They're all sweating the heat of the long, hot summer that is media, that things are just not going well for them. Thanks for joining me. kingofpodcasts.com is the site where you find everything here on the program. And one of the things I need to be doing that I am going to set up as soon as I get a chance to, I need to go and put on the website. I was thinking about this while I was in the pool today, sweltering in the heat that is South Florida, which was 94 degrees today. It was 97, a record, now 99 degrees, record high here in South Florida, 2 days ago? I think it was on Tuesday. Like ridiculously crazy. And I'm trying to play basketball, trying to work out and all, or walk. And this is unbearable heat. Man, the level of like SP50 sunscreen I need to put on to keep myself from going like completely dark. It's very tough, but I have an amazing tan. At least I have that to go for me, so I appreciate that part. But now, one of the things I'm going to be looking at doing for the website at kingofpodcasts.com, and I want to do that now for folks that are listening to the program. I want to do a thing now where you get a chance to reach out to me and contact me. And one of the things I'm looking to go and do is set up WhatsApp, because I don't have a WhatsApp account set up yet. And that's one of the things I'm going to be doing that I want to do next. So if it's available, then I'm going to add it in here. It is. So here we go. Perfect. I was thinking about putting it. Now I'm going to put it in here as well. So I'm going to set this up. Here we go. We're going to do WhatsApp. And for those that wants to go and get involved and catch up with me, you'll be able to find a link on how to contact me on WhatsApp. If you want to leave a voice message, a voice note, or a message for me to read on the air, then you can do so. Simple as that. kingofpodcasts.com. Simple as that. Real simple. It'll be great. And I hope you'll go and consider that as we do this here on the program. I also want to go ahead and make mention of the Supporters Club. If you want to go ahead and listen to new content, bonus episodes of the program, or you just want to go ahead and give a donation to the program, the Broadcasters Podcast, or one of your other favorite podcasts here, go ahead and look for the latest Supporters Club episode. And you can find the Supporters Club section at kingofpodcasts.com. You go down there, you'll find the Supporters Club section, and you'll see the latest information I have about the damage control video that Diddy did a couple weeks ago. And there's more I'm going to be adding to that, but I just want to make sure to go ahead and drop that in there. You can catch bonus episodes right here, kingofpodcasts.com. So I hope you'll go ahead and consider that. So first off, I want to go ahead and talk about Hollywood and the box office right now, and what the LA Times is calling the box office doom loop. Hollywood's high pressure expectations game. Now, we know that very well that Hollywood wants to go ahead and get the movies that are putting out in the theaters. You know, it was already bad enough during pandemic that they went ahead and changed the exhibition window to which movie theaters are able to go ahead and show movies before they go to digital on demand. Okay. And what they did was they were going through a deal where they wanted to go after the fact that they thought that more people would be staying at home to watch movies. But even I was saying this the other day with my father, right? I've been showing him some movies that, came out in the theaters a couple of years ago or last year. And I said, let me go ahead and put them on for him. So, just catch up on some movies. And I said this the other day, and I kid you not, it's true. For someone that's watching a movie in a movie theater, the experience of sitting in those leather seats, popcorn and drink in hand or candy, right? Not just for some of you. And then you're also enjoying, or a drink, you never know, right? Or you're sitting at home to when you can go and pause the movie, turn it back on. You can step away from it, and whatever you want to do, you can just go and go away. So the thing is that you can do whatever you want. You can step away. You don't even have the full movie setup. You don't have the movie theater experience where you have the great sound, the great picture. You might have a nice big screen on there, but seriously, to get the kind of level of movie theater experience and to make it an event for yourself to go to the movie theater and pay the tickets, pay the concessions, and sit down and enjoy it with somebody. Other thing, to enjoy it with somebody else. When you're trying to do that, you got to ask yourself the question, are you going to enjoy the experience of the movie as much as you would in the theater? Because I think people really forget that part, is that watching a movie in the theater is the experience you're supposed to get. That's how you're supposed to be able to optimize, get the best of the movie. Because even Netflix movies, if you put them up on a bigger screen, it would feel different. It would feel something special. But nobody wants to do that. And so for 4 years, I think I've had now the Regal Unlimited Pass. No, maybe more than that. I bought it in 2019, I think it was. So yeah, 5 years coming up now. So I've had it that long. I mean, ever since they started the program. And I've enjoyed it immensely. And the fact that I can go to movies like I do for as much as I do. And the fact that I'm watching and I'm like saying, wow, man, I am like so deep into what I'm doing right now. 26 movies I think I've seen this year so far. Maybe a little bit more. I'm not sure, but I think it's 26. And, you know, I struggled with the fact that last week I talked about the fact that there wasn't really any movies to catch for this weekend because they're just kind of light on movies right now anyway. Okay. But then the other part that you have to consider as well is that the movies you're going to watch, no matter what they are, people still think that you can watch it at home. And for some of you, you're not going to go and pay for that digital on demand right away. Like, you know, how many people are going to pay $24.99 or $19.99 for a rental or to buy it right off the bat? They're all going to wait for it later. If you're going to be a home entertainment movie buff, then you're going to watch it from home whenever you want. You're not going to worry about how soon you catch it. If you want to catch the movie when it's new, you're going to get it when it's in the theater right then and there. Because it's being lazy if you don't. Like if you're not investing the time and money to go and watch a movie new, then that's not what you're here to do. You don't want to invest in time or money. You're just going to wait for it to be streaming somewhere where you've already put a little bit of money in for that, along with everything else that you're watching. It's like radio now. You know, radio, for being a free medium with advertising, it used to be a thing where if you want to hear new music, you know, you would try to sample what there is of the hits that are going to be on an album on the radio. Sometimes the radio station might even play the whole album for you just to get an idea of it, if the record label allows it. But now these days it's like, well, that's not even happening either. So it's something to be said about enjoying the movies and the experience of that. And obviously there's two sides of the coin. Of people that want to go and watch it in the theater and those that don't. And I understand you're griping about the fact that it costs too much, but you know what? You can go to movies on certain nights and, you know, it's good. Matinees are still not too expensive. You can still go to see movies on Tuesdays. Tuesday nights, they cater to people that want to watch a bargain movie and catch it. And that can be a movie that just happened on Friday. So you catch it on Tuesday and you catch it on a cheap dime. That's not bad. That's not like we can have a appointment viewing out there. Not necessarily. Like there's not like network TV or whatever that you have to be home for. Or for much of that matter. And remember, this is like what, if it's a school night for you or a work night? Yeah, to get away for a little bit and unplug, not a bad idea. Just saying. But for those that are not movie lovers like me, you know, and like I said, I'm not watching every movie. I'm not watching horror movies. I'm not watching every animated series that's on. I'm not watching any comedies that are not going to fit me or movies that are not going to fit me anyway. They're just not made for me. But now we're at the point where Hollywood was so worried about the strike. See, I don't understand why they decided to hedge their bets later. They wanted to make the summer box office this year suffer, as opposed to making up for it on the back end. I don't understand Hollywood's backwards thinking. I understand they thought that the strike was going to be after a certain while, but when they push movies out, it's one thing to be said about pushing movies out, you know, so many months after the strike's over. But when you're talking about movies that move out of the next year, okay? Like how many movies do we have that should have been out this year that got pushed back? We talked about it last week. I mean, it's just not right. And then there were certain movies that should have been here that got slated for later or just got moved around. It's a big mistake. And the truth is you're losing money on that anyway. Like think about Mission Impossible. Even after the strike, that budget is going to be $400 billion by the end of it. Of all the things they're doing with Mission Impossible right now, trying to build out the second half of the closing installment of Mission Impossible, Dead Reckoning Part 2. It's incredible, but that's what they have to do right now. And because of the strike, now they're going to hurt on this, when they could have just hurried it up, finish up, and then get back on set. Because the other thing is that you're worrying about now, Hollywood is already hurting themselves. We're going to talk about the job market in Hollywood right now, because a lot of people are losing their jobs. Like the inflation that's going on right now also didn't help either. But again, Hollywood wasn't even considering that. Being able to employ and be able to keep their bottom line up in an inflationary time, yeah, they're hurting right now. Now they're hurting. And so that the streaming service is going to crap, and they're having that bundle now. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Those are all things that are being considered right now that are being an issue. And these are problems that they all have they can't figure out an answer for. So LA Times writes about this op-ed column. Mary McNamara. Hollywood is paying the price right now for what they did. And this is where Mary is right about this. Hollywood executives, she says, they turn out to believe in magic. Somehow they thought that forcing 6 months worth of strikes by writers and actors last year would come at no cost to this summer's movie season. Like if you're going to hedge this bet, listen, we know that the movie studios, they had the power, right? They had the bargaining chip. And then we had to go take the long way of waiting to get this all done. And it hurt. Now, Hollywood's trying to go ahead and save some dough in the short run, burn off a few ill-advised deals while the folks with the multi-million-dollar salaries try to figure out what to do about all these dang streaming services they rush to create. Outside the billionaire bubble, the delays, particularly of big-budget tentpole movies, scrambled this year's slate and left theaters in a lurch. Everyone appears shocked to find that this has real-life implications for ticket sales. The lowest box office Memorial Day haul in almost 30 years was this year. And she writes, if the studios that make movies don't care if months go by without movies getting made, why should the general public certainly bestir itself just because there's a long weekend? The problems of reasonable expectations. She goes on to write that I don't know what Bean County genius thought that The Fall Guy, a sweet if highly energetic rom-com based on a mildly successful 80s TV series, could pass for the sort of early Marvel-ish blockbuster Hollywood has increasingly built its summer ticket sales upon. Nor do I understand the magical thinking that put such extraordinary expectations on Hollywood Weekend, anchored by Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, a prequel for a nearly 10-year-old film, and the latest in a 30-year-old franchise, and the Garfield movie based on a cartoon appearing in newspapers and achieved cinematic popularity 20 years ago. So cinemas, Furiosa and Garfield joined Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, managing to its own May 12th opening weekend by virtue of having absolutely no competition, and If, the animated movie, which seems to be doing okay mainly because no one saddled with it with self-destructively high estimates. So she's talking about the fact that, we had movies that went out last year with Top Gun or 2 years ago with Top Gun Maverick and Indiana Jones Dial of Destiny. We talked about that last week, right? No one really wants to live in a multiplex version of Pottersville, where everything is just a little bit different. Even without the strike, she says, the summer's box office was destined to be a bit of a letdown. You can't capture the glorious movies or backlighting of last year's Barbenheimer in a bottle. But by forcing the strikes, the studios ensured that it would be much worse, as in moving the industry back at least an entire year and reigniting all the issues and obstacles that the pandemic had intensified worse. Right. What they did with the strike is what was worse than they did with the pandemic. They handled it worse. They didn't learn. They overcame the obstacle before. And this was worse. Now, granted, hopefully the 4-year deal, we will not have to go through another long bargaining process again for a while. Like, this is a suffering we're to get. But down the line, the immediate help that they needed right now, with the fact that the streaming services are struggling, this doesn't help the studios. Like the big corporate media, they're not getting helped by this. Warner Bros. Discovery, Paramount, Global, Comcast, Disney, they're not helped by all this. Once again, industry watchers are bemoaning the increased cost of tickets and concessions, the shortened time between theatrical and streaming release, the glut of content provided by streaming services, and the pandemic-enforced habit of just staying home. Like, I do notice that people are still going out to the movies, okay? If you get a good movie out there, people are going to go. Again, Barbie and Oppenheimer proved that last year. And I think Deadpool and Wolverine will be the one movie that will actually get people coming out. Like the Marvel folks haven't had anything really fun to watch, because look, last year was a bad year for superhero movies. Okay, last year was a horrible year. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania was not good. I didn't watch it. Some people liked it. Blue Beetle, horrible. The Flash, horrible. All right, in retrospect. Captain Marvel or the Marvels, horrible. Like, we had bad superhero movies last year, really bad, and they all suffered. And like this year, at the moment, we're going to have Deadpool and Wolverine. That's going to probably do really well. That should knock the ball out of the park. Joker Part 2, Folie Part 2, Folie Dieu, whatever it is, that's going to do very well in October. Let's make sure that, or October, November, that's going to do very well too. So the superhero side, you're going to get some of that. Granted. But it's much better than last year, because that was bad of all that. Add to that the difficulty of marketing films where the traditional form television commercials have vanished with their linear television, and moving to a personalized digital world where the grandeur of filmmaking is compressed through a window on a palm-sized screen that can be dismissed with a swipe of a finger. Yeah, the TikTok or Instagram or X, I'll tell you, I have not been watching any movie trailers from TV. They're not on TV. None. Unless it's some big tentpole that just came out. Like in Furiosa, I saw some on TV, but I saw a lot of it online. Wolves is a new movie coming out in September with George Clooney, Brad Pitt. Yeah, I haven't seen anything about that. But, the first time I saw it, aside from the trailers, now I haven't seen anything from the trailers for it, but this is the first time I saw this movie. That's good. I saw nothing. Oh, for Garfield, I saw nothing. Nothing for Garfield, I don't think. I don't remember. So, the money being put out to promote movies, they're not doing it like much anymore. Like, you're seeing a lot of movies that will get trailers well before. Like Furiosa, I saw for months before. Like, the trailers in the movie theaters, you'll see them 6 months to a year in advance. Like right now, what was it? In the theaters now, most recently, Wicked is already being promoted really well. I've seen the one for Babes coming up that was pretty extensively pushed out, among other things. But there just wasn't much. Fall Guy had a lot of trailers beforehand. I saw that, well before Christmas, I think it was, that I started seeing trailers for that. It wasn't like there wasn't money putting out there, but I don't know. Is it any wonder that we get a half-hour trailers before any movie these days? Yes, 25 minutes now, Mary. This past weekend, 25 minutes of trailers. And I think, what was it? Yeah, 20 minutes of trailers when they get to the trailers, okay? Because there's even the trailer or two that come up during the, the movie section, like the pre-show thing, right? With Maria Menounos in my theater that goes, that you eat your candy before the trailer's going, ha, I caught you. I saw you. She's cute, so she can do that. Anyways. Yeah, 25 minutes of trailers. And I have to kind of time that. 25 minutes after the movie time, and then usually that's when the movie starts. So for Furiosa, I got there, 10:15? Didn't start till 10:40. And the movie being 2.5 hours did not finish till 1. So, that's also why they can't do midnight movies anymore, because the timing of some of these movies, they're so long. They're all 2 hours plus. That's the other part. I don't know why they're doing that either. What is it, the movies that can't make it within 2 hours? Or even a little bit less? Because that used to be the norm. Hour 40, hour 45, 2 hours. Or do a 90-minute movie. They're not wanting to do that now. They want to just go longer. Why are they allowing that to happen? I don't understand that part either. But, oh well. Not so long ago, people could open a newspaper like the Times and find movie ads, complete with lists with which film was playing, alongside voluminous listing sections. Now, I never really paid attention to Fandango. I'm not big about that. I do read Rotten Tomatoes, and I put ratings on there. I will review movies that I watch on Rotten Tomatoes now. This year I started doing that. But, no, I want to watch when movie times are coming up. I just know I got my Regal that's right near my house. Because, unfortunately, the other problem is I don't have any other movie houses near my house. When I think about it right now, I'd have to go, 15 miles north to Palm Beach Gardens. Or I'd have to go another 15 miles south to Lake Worth 20 miles to Boynton Beach or 30 miles to Boca Raton, and not even West Boca. I have to go to East Boca because movie theaters are kind of spread out. Again, in downtown West Palm Beach, where West Palm Beach is its only movie theater, well, no, I can go to the Wellington Mall, right? The Wellington Green. I can go to the CMX right there. That's okay. But that's like a backup. Well, the other problem is I don't go to the other movie theaters because they don't have late show times. At least my Regal, because they kind of paid attention. Yeah, they got show times after 10 o'clock on Fridays, which is good for me. I don't want to get there and the last showings are 8 and 9 o'clock. No, give me 10 o'clock show times, please. And I've asked them for that. And they've been complying, which is really nice of them. The current constriction among streaming services could offer movies a chance to elbow their way into the back in the new and varied content zone that television has dominated for the past decade, and if only studios started taking more chances on new and varied content. Another intellectual property like Planet of the Apes, Garfield, or Mad Max, even when it premieres to mix reviews at cons, do not register as new and varied content. Nor do Inside Out 2, Bad Boys Ride or Die, Quiet Place Day 1, Deadpool and Wolverine, Despicable Me 4. Though many are predicting that these will put more butts in air-conditioned seats as the summer rolls on, long criticized in terms of diminishing artistic returns, franchise films have become a box office staple, serialized storytelling, i.e. television for the big screen. And as with the old model television, studios are increasingly tying success to a very small viewing window, which is a big problem. Opening weekend has become the cinematic equivalent of a pilot, and those movies that don't do well in the first 2 weekends are often written off as failures with all the ensuing bad press. Yeah, they think they're supposed to get a quick turnaround. Sometimes word of mouth is necessary to get a movie to go and take off, but they don't allow that. They don't allow that to even go. Meanwhile, the film industry has already completely ceded the kinds of stories once taught in binge-budget films, which often had smaller opening weekends but greater staying power to television. Now, the one thing, too, is that the movie plexes, they always do the thing where they want to give you as many movie times as possible to catch whatever big movie there is. Like, even this weekend I got looking, and Furiosa's got a whole bunch of times, and so does Garfield, and I forget whatever else there is. But, like, the movie times when I look on the Regal app tonight, if I'm looking at it right now, even to look at other movies, my thing is I know that there's not that many movies to watch because of the fact that they are not putting out as many. And, because of the movie theaters doing that, it makes it very difficult. So, like, if I'm going to my Royal Palm Beach Theater right now, which is, by the way, 1.6 miles from my house, if I'm looking at today's movie schedule for May 31st of Friday, as I record this program, well, let's see. There's a Bollywood movie that's coming out. Interesting. There's a movie called The Dead That Don't Hurt. Well, see, they finally got a couple of movies that are kind of extras. Like, maybe I'll go and catch this. You know what? I might just change around my programming here. I got to take a look at this. Interesting. Okay. There's a Western movie that I've never heard of. Ezra's coming out this weekend. And at first I saw they had like a whole bunch of times for it. And they changed it around. In a Violent Nature, that's a new movie I didn't even heard of. But like these just got popped up. And I've heard nothing about these movies. It's a horror movie. In a Violent Nature, I don't know anybody in this movie, but like it just popped in here. And nobody will know about it. Summer Camp, I never saw a trailer for it, but that's out now. Like there was a point where they had a whole bunch of movies that were just out that just like a lot more times were being allotted for Furiosa or Garfield or Planet of the Apes. Because they were just combining to that. But now they got a few more movies out there. Additional times. Because that's, or if, has a lot of show times as well. So like right now, they actually have quite a few movies to show, which is nice. And it looks like I got one other movie I can go and watch, which would be nice as well. I'll try to catch that and see how it works out, That's interesting. The Dead Don't Hurt. Viggo Mortensen and Danny Houston are two of the people that I know on this. But it looks like it's about a French-Canadian, fiercely independent, embarking on a relationship with a Danish immigrant. So it's it's like a rom-com, like it's like a dramatic kind of thing, but it's not like really a Western. I gotta look and see if there's anything about it, if it's any good. But really, like the big movies, they get like the bulk of things, and then I really don't know about any particular movies to watch after that until I see them like dropped into the theater at the last minute. Like there's no promotion of what the theaters might have until later on. Like I was looking, Monday and Tuesday? I saw nothing. I didn't see anything until right now. I looked on Thursday night. I'm like, okay, well, That's what they do. The film industry has almost completely ceded to the kind of stories once told in mid-budget films, which often had smaller opening weekends but greater staying power to television. But now the streaming disrupted television industry figures out a way forward. Moving perhaps to the more traditional, long-running sitcom and procedural models, it may be time for the film industry to make fewer high-stakes blockbusters and more mid-budget films. I agree. We don't need to make all these big blockbuster movies. Mid-budget films are good. Like when I'm thinking about like mid-budget films that I've watched, I just rewatched one with my father. Knox Goes Away with Michael Keaton. He directed and produced it. Awesome movie. It was great. American Fiction, another great movie. All these Oscar-nominated movies, they're always good for that. They're always good for that. So like, you can give me that too. But, I think they're not wrong about this part about allowing some studios to start making some smaller films. But they're not in the business of that anymore. I don't know. They just don't want to do it. Especially putting on the movie theaters in the first place. Plus, how many of those are getting taken up by streaming services as well? Because think about it. I'm reading the story about Jake Gyllenhaal making the Roadhouse movie, the new version of Roadhouse for 2024. And Amazon offered, hey, you know what? We'll put it in the movie theaters and we'll give you a $65 million budget. Or we can make it direct to streaming and we'll give you $85 million. So Amazon decides, no, we're going to put it in the studio first. We want to make that happen. Okay. Is that really like a good thing to have? But anyway, we're going to do that part. I don't know if I like that or not. She goes on to write that the pressure to drag millions of people into theaters over the course of 2 or 3 days to see one or two films must be relieved. Sequel, prequel, reboot, or gasp, original concept. Not every film should be forced to make $500 million or even half its total budget on opening weekend to be considered a success. So The Fall Guy, which already dubbed a herald of woe for the box office, is closing in $150 million in global sales. Now, the film was budgeted at $138 million, but it's not a flop, according to her. The usual combination of rom-com and big expensive fight chase scenes, the issue may be more with the film than the state of moviegoing. Setting it up as a test balloon for summer 2024 didn't do it any favors. Those who did not see it almost immediately after it opened were treated to headlines announcing it was not just a failure, but the pall it might cast over the future of movies throughout eternity. It's a lot for Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt to carry. Listen, I would tell you, I enjoyed the movie. I thought it was good. So I would recommend to go and watch it. I thought Emily Blunt and Ryan Gosling were great in this movie. I like the movie. I like the stunts. I like the throwback to the original Fall Guy TV series. Like, I'm an old school Fall Guy fan, right? Lee Majors and, Heather Thomas and all that. Yeah, absolutely, please. Joanne Fluga's Big Jack. Or Marky Post, isn't it, right? All those things. 6 months of strikes is going to cost studios, theater owners, and advertisers a lot of money. There was never any way around that, no matter what the Associated Motion Picture and TV producers had to say during negotiations. If studio executives were willing to lose their part of their money for a chance to reset the industry, then they better get the resetting. But expecting a Mad Max prequel and a Garfield sequel to somehow save the day is a way bigger flop than The Fall Guy. So, she makes a good point here. And it's unfortunate to see that the movie theaters have gone and suffered so much as a result of all this. But they did. What are they going to do about it? I mean, they haven't made much of a plan on this at all. But that was something really big that they really made up and made a big point of talking about. Now, let's get into the streaming issues, because there's quite a bit of that going on. We talked about this last week, or about a couple weeks ago. Comcast setting up to do Stream Saver, a Stream Saver bundle where they're going to offer Netflix, Peacock, and Apple TV Plus in one package. Well, it's now available. So customers could save up to 30% or nearly $100 a year. So here's what they got. The Stream Saver can be added toward Comcast's Now TV package for $15 a month extra. Their plan includes 40 live TV channels, a lot of the cable channels, and more than 24 fast channels, right? And Peacock is also playing an increasing central role in the strategy of both NBCU and Comcast. Launched in 2020, services lag many competitors in total subscribers and mostly still loses money. Well, I can tell you Peacock's in a point right now. For some of my wrestling fans out there, by the way, Peacock, if you've never been a subscriber before, you can actually now buy Peacock for a year for $19.99. I can't get it, but you can. So if that helps you and you like all those pay-per-views like I do, then not a bad price to pay. $20 a year for the first year. That's not bad. That's pretty good overall. The other thing with Hollywood I've got to talk about as well is that there's issues right now because jobs are declining and the people that work in Hollywood are feeling the brunt of it right now because there's not a lot of work. So since the writers and actors strikes last year and the slow start of reproduction, work opportunities we're seeing are looking quite different than in past years. I talked to director of photography and camera operator that said that in 2024, the first 5 months, he's only worked 18 days. So right now, crew members are being hit especially hard. One of the people that talked to, a boom operator and director, Heather Fink, says that I'm currently in the worst place I've ever been in my life financially. The industry is in a crisis. It is not back to normal. We are in debt. Film LA, a nonprofit that tracks on-location printing in the city, put out a report in April that there's a slow bounce back in production after the dual strikes. Local on-location filming in the first quarter was down 8.7% from the first quarter of 2023. TV also, production falling 16.2% from last year. Paul Audley, president of Film LA, says the findings are startling when considering film and TV production saw a retraction in 2023 in anticipation of the writers' strike. Quote, what we're facing is a combination of effects of the studios as well as the streamers, cutting back not only the number of limited series, but they produce, in some cases, the number of episodes they're producing for shows. That's just not good. So with scarce work opportunities, many crew members are concerned about how they will maintain their health insurance, tied to the number of hours they work. In the new pension plan and all the stuff they were agreed upon during the strike, well, they had to meet certain hours. Motion picture industry pension plans and health plans must work 400 hours in a 6-month period to maintain their insurance. So some of these people are not going to be able to keep their insurance that they fought for in the strike. Oh boy. Then you also talk about the sets being brutal and relentless. And that was a concern about ongoing negotiations with the IATSE, right? IATSE, AMPTP, representing Hollywood studios. And then the Writers Guild and the SAG-AFTRA, they dealt about negotiations with wage increases, residuals, and the use of artificial intelligence, still being an issue. Now, crew members are still cautiously optimistic that negotiations will proceed smoothly and they'll move forward. And that's IATSE, by the way, that's still negotiating right now for film and TV crew members and their negotiations before they go on strike. The deal has to be done before July 31st when their contract expires. We haven't talked about that too much, but, kind of figured everything else was going to go fine. One other concerns they had to talk about are the increasing number of productions moving away from LA and California to the states or countries that offer better tax incentives for production. A phenomenon dubbed runaway production. Runaway production. Yeah, because I'm going to tell you, what Shogun I saw was being done, filmed in British Columbia. You got movies that are being done or shows that are being done in like Georgia or Florida or other places because of tax incentives. So they talk about here that California offers $330 million annually in film tax credits, but other states looking to build up their state status as production hubs. You got New York and Georgia providing more attractive incentives and programs with higher unlimited funding. New York's cap is $700 million. Georgia doesn't even have a limit. Then you have the UK, New Zealand, Australia offering cushy tax incentive for studios where they can bypass unions and pay crews lower wages in the States. So it's the other part as well. So all this stress, the fear of the jobs moving out of state or abroad, there are strenuous conditions that are being faced on the set, and the lack of employment opportunities are affecting mental health of many crew members. So much more to that, but that story comes out there from LA Times. Quite interesting about that too. Now, one of the other areas very interesting right now is the streaming services, the fast streaming services. Okay, Tubi, Pluto TV, the Roku channel. They're getting users thanks to the lower barrier of entry because they're free and they're bulking up on their programming. People are starting to feel the brunt of the streaming, and they're saying, you know what, we can still stream, but we don't have to go and buy these services. Because you have the Tubis and Pluto TVs and Rokus of the world that are doing really well by themselves by putting out content. The Fox up front on May 13th, their Tubi service got as much stage time as its traditional broadcast channels. We talked about this as well, that all the streaming services are also vying for advertising dollars. The advantage for companies that have fast offerings, including Fox's Tubi, Paramount's Pluto TV, the Roku channel, the platforms come with lower costs than paid services thanks to their massive libraries of in-house and licensed content, and some originals for some. Pluto doesn't have any originals. Let's just keep that point. But they bring in a large user base, another option for advertisers, and while users have usually been drawn by the prospect of a free service, they're sticking around because of the quality content. John Buffon, VP of Media Industry Advisor and Market Research company Circana, says that free is a great driver to get people to try something. Free doesn't keep you there, though. Tubi made up 1.7% of all TV viewing in the U.S. for the month, just behind Disney+, followed by the Roku channel at 1.4%, and then coming in above Peacock and Max. Pluto at 0.8%. Now, Pluto has become the first fast service to make it to the gauge, a threshold of 1% of all TV viewing in September 2022. So people are going to it. Tubi now has 778 million monthly active users, up 60% since last May. You know, part of it is, I think it's because on TikTok, they talk about some of these movies that they have on there that are so badly produced and so badly put together, like there's just poor quality, but people just laugh at it. Like the train wreck is probably worth watching. Now, it's apples and oranges compared to free services with paid subscription services, but a larger user base than Paramount Plus, Hulu, or Peacock, though far below Netflix and their $270 million global subscribers. 90% of the viewing on Tubi is on-demand movies and TV series, while some of the others are largely live linear channels, given the audience is more engaged. Their strategy is specifically for fandoms. So some of the fandoms they have on Tubi include horror and thriller, black entertainment, Spanish language and kids content. It focuses younger, more diverse audience. 60% of Tubi viewers are cord cutters or never had cable. 40% are not on major paid streamers. Just found an audience, and the advertisers that go in front of it. They also found out from new research from Charter, Comcast, streaming venture Xumo, and Bridge, 73% of fast viewers also watch cable or broadcast TV. 86% subscribe to at least one paid streaming service. A third of users say they also watch fast channels during peak primetime hours. That is starting to rival cable and other forms of entertainment. Pluto TV is seen as a complement to Paramount Plus, with promotion and content meant to help funnel users to the paid service. Yeah, of course. If you got Pluto TV and you see all the Paramount Plus ads, yeah, that's why they want to get you there. It's a gateway. It's a smart thing to do, too. Good way to use it. The fast service is profitable, and it's on right now, Pluto is on its fourth year of profitability. Tubi has not been profitable on its own, but it's been prudent in its investment to drive viewer engagement and can adjust the level of spending. The company saw revenue grow up 22% year over year in the third quarter of 2024, and viewing time up 36%. For Roku, it's up 19% year over year in the first quarter. May 2023, Pluto had claimed 80 million monthly active users. And the company's also partnered with Marriott Hotels and with Hilton to include Pluto in hotel rooms, and in addition to the company's streaming partnership with Walmart Plus. 90% of the viewing is linear, by the way, for Pluto. And they don't do any originals. We're going to have those on the paid service. As one piece of original content is not likely to drive high engagement. So let's move along now to my third subject of the program, and that is news. And news companies dealing with their AI. The fact of the matter is that, look, I've been using Google Gemini right now for the last few weeks because it was offered to my plan of Google One, where I have cloud storage, among other things. And let me tell you, when it's writing me stories here, I'm using it right now to write the stories for the program. Okay? For the description of the shows, it's doing a great job. Okay? Here's what it says about the news media's AI dilemma. This is what it wrote for me. How about this? The news media industry is facing its own existential crisis in the form of artificial intelligence. AI-generated content is being increasingly sophisticated, blurring the lines between human and machine-written articles, raising the concerns about the spread of misinformation, the erosion of journalistic standards, and the potential displacement of human writers. News outlets are now forced to grapple with the ethical and practical applications of AI as they strive to maintain credibility and relevance in a rapidly changing media landscape. Pretty good. Pretty solid. Yeah, because like I said, a service like Gemini or a service like ChatGPT or OpenAI, whatever you want, they're going to take over for what the news business has failed to do. For all these publications, all these magazines, some of these publications got upset because they felt like their advertising revenue, their subscriptions, circulation have dropped. Well, now the tech people, you said, the tech people should go and pay for the advertising they took away from us for putting their content putting their content on their sites. And what does Google and Meta and all those say? Don't worry about it. We don't need you guys anymore. You might have your stories out there, whatever you want, but we get our AI sources, we get our artificial intelligence to write the stories for us. We don't need you to write them for us anymore. We can find the stories, find out the information, and we can put it out there ourselves. And we can just put our own news material without your help. We don't need you stinking writers or publishers. Ooh. And that's actually what's going to happen now. They're talking about it. It's been a lot of things talked about here. So the Wrap writes about this. Litigate or license, news publishers struggle with letting the AI have their content. So OpenAI right now, they have already hit $2 million in annual revenue. They're starting to court publishers with upfront compensation. So that's what's going on right now. They're going to likely use some of the same content to train their large language models. And now we have new partnerships with the likes of News Corp, Dotdash Meredith, the Financial Times, Associated Press, and Axel Springer. So News Corp and OpenAI are doing a deal now that's worth $250 million multi-year. The Wall Street Journal reported the largest deal made by the AI firm thus far. OpenAI has set the pace with 24 confirmed licensing deals between platforms and news publishers, according to CGR Center, Columbia Journalism Review. Microsoft has a partnership with OpenAI. They now have 7 confirmed deals, and Google has closed on 3 partnerships. Other companies like Apple, Amazon, Adobe have linked deals of some kind or are involved in ongoing discussions with publishers, according to Tell. So now the idea is these news publications, they're not going to be able to go and ask for the money that they were getting before. They're just going to give up their property to these tech companies. These companies like OpenAI, Google, and Meta, they're just going to give up and let the AI be done with their content for an advance in income. Okay, upfront compensation. So now the publishers are going to just get money, but they're giving up they're going to basically give up their intellectual property. They're going to give up themselves and surrender to AI. They have no choice. So media figures are sounding the alarm on a pace of AI deal-making, expressing a concern over deja vu. Information founder CEO penned up an article in The Atlantic calling the partnerships a fatal error for publishers. She says this, quote, "It is extraordinarily distressing to observe media organizations rushing to partner with AI firms after being burned by tech companies in the past. AI deals are far worse for publishers than past deals with giants like Facebook, limiting their search traffic in the long term. Even if OpenAI executives were ardent believers in the importance of news, helping journalism won't be on their long-term priority list." So yeah, what's happening is, instead of what they were trying to do with these tech companies and try to make them pay back what these publishers thought they were owed, what they're going to do now is they're going to take a percentage on the advertising. They're getting commission for what they have as their content. A better deal for tech, but they have the upper hand. The publishers are just trying to stay alive by getting upfront compensation. Yeah, that tells me a lot right there. The push by big tech to lock up content to feed its chatbots comes at a time for news media because they're struggling right now. They're desperate. Media companies have struggled with failing and falling digital ad revenue, now dominated by big tech companies. And we've had mass layoffs, draconian cost-cutting measures. Washington Post, just Thursday, 50% decline in web traffic, $77 million lost in 2023, and looming cutbacks. So the prospect of incorporating AI in their newsrooms, but also conflicted by what it means to the value of their content. Big tech companies have told investors they plan to spend tens of billions of dollars to develop AI and are in an all-out race to gain a foothold in what would be a multi-trillion-dollar industry. Licensing deals between media organizations and OpenAI so far have been conducted on an individual basis, each company granting the AI firm varying degrees of access to content. The AP's partnership, in the single-digit millions of dollars in compensation, according to Wall Street Journal, is limited to the use of archival content for large language models. News Corp, larger and more comprehensive, allows OpenAI to display content from the organization's portfolio of mastheads in response to ChatGPT questions from users. So, News Corp will provide journalistic expertise to OpenAI in an effort to ensure quality control of the tech company's journalistic standards. Now, some media companies, experts are saying, are eager to embrace AI technology and welcome revenue from cash-flush tech giants, and possible to ignore the similarities to previous cycles of tech development. In the past decade, news publishers molded their business and editorial strategies around tech initiatives, including chasing search functions and social features. Yeah, so they're always following, they're just wagging the dog. You know, the news media are always having to follow the tech standards. And now they're at the point where, you know, they're not making any money because the tech companies are. They're just hoping to get a cut. And all you have to do is the resources being done by these news agencies, these news media companies, they're got to take AI because they got nothing else left. And what will happen? It'll be like radio. Eventually, these news publications won't even be necessary because AI will be smart enough. They will teach it enough that those companies will be obsolete. And who knows if these tech companies will buy these properties out at a bargain because they'll be able to. Just saying, it might happen. Publishers today are more jaded about the state of news as a business. Deal with companies like Meta and Google because they have constant platform changes, algorithmic fluctuations, and updates tending to come at the expense of the media organizations. So many news publishers are simply opting to meet with AI executives, hoping to see the advantages of being non-confrontational over copyright infringement concerns. Now, there have been lawsuits being put out here to kind of buck the system. The New York Times launched lawsuits against AI developers, hoping to set a precedent for copyright infringement by AI content scrapers and news content. At the least, news organizations want to be compensated for content may have already been used without permission. 8 all-then global newspapers, including Chicago Tribune, have sued OpenAI and Microsoft, with 2 separate suits also coming from digital media outlets that include The Intercept, Alternate, and Raw Story. I talked to Cardozo Law professor Saruba Vishnu Bhakat, who specializes in IP law, tells TheWrap.com the application of the principle in relation to the training of AI models is still a new and largely untested legal theory, with actual court decisions remaining relatively scarce. It's definitely copyrighted material that they've been using for most of their models. If it's not going to be illegal at the end of the day, I don't know what is, but I'm not a judge. A judge will decide that. And at the moment, New York Times is already spending $1 million on fees, $1 million on fees related to the lawsuit against OpenAI and Microsoft. And that was what they said to their first quarter earnings to their stockholders. That must be nice. And the AI-related companies, OpenAI again, hit $2 billion revenue milestone in December, according to Financial Times. Microsoft, $61.9 billion, up from $52.9 billion. Their profit is $21.9 billion, up from $18.3 billion. The report is that news publishers and AI firms have the option to settle the lawsuits, avoid a lengthy court battle, and we'll have to see what they're going to do overall and what can happen with these deals that are being made. Like even now, the Atlantic and Vox Media have made their deal with what they call the AI devil, because OpenAI is now looking to train its tool on their content. Just a matter of time. And Gadget writes this in the story. They say that they've signed in blood News Corp, Financial Times, People Magazine, publisher Dash Meredith, the AP, and now the Atlantic and Vox Media. Yep, they're all going to be coming like that. It's all going to happen that way. And OpenAI is devouring the media industry, according to VentureBeat. Everybody's talking about it. Axel Springer, by the way, they hold titles like Politico, Business Insider, and Build. And here's some of the deals that have already been put out. This is from VentureBeat. They've already talked about the deals that have been put out. So, American Journalism Project was in July 2023. OpenAI made a deal with them. Associated Press, July of 2023. Axel Springer, December 2023. Financial Times, April 2024. And just this month, Meredith Dotdash, Vox Media, and Atlantic. That's where we're at right now so far. It's interesting what they're going to get done right now. But this is the thing in the media that's happening, and they have no choices to do anything with it. So OpenAI and all these other ones are going to come into play because they can. It doesn't matter anymore. A couple of stories of radio I want to bring up before we wrap things up. I always put the radio stuff at the end because I know that's for those of you hardcore listeners of the program, you'll enjoy some of these stories. Radio share of audio ad dollars is shrinking as total spend grows. Axel Springer's e-marketer publication, they are saying the March 2024 forecast that digital audio advertising is expected to have significant growth from $11 billion in 2022 to $17.36 billion in 2028. Actually, no, hold on. Broadcast radio advertising was $11 billion out of $17.36 billion spent on audio ads. And now it's dropped by almost $2 billion. $9.68 billion in 2028. That they're expecting it to fall. Podcast ad revenue saw an increase of 5% by 2023, reaching $1.9 billion. The IAB expects a rebound in growth, a 12% increase in 2024. Revenues is to approach $2.6 billion by 2026. But radio, in its part, is losing. They keep falling apart. An interesting study that came out from YouGov. They conducted a story between February 29th and March 5th, 2024, and they found out that the current decade of radio is the worst it's ever been right now. So when they asked for the best decades of radio programming, they said the 1990s emerges the most favored decade with 12% of respondents considering it the best. Higher among age groups with and Hispanics with 19% of the 18 to 29 age group and 16% of Hispanics favoring the 1990s. Well, 90s and, the 90s were very good. There was a lot of good music that came out and a lot of great radio stations. Before deregulation, yeah. But the early to mid 90s were awesome. I mean, just down here where I live, we had so many stations available that were just playing great music. And remember, it was the start of hip hop programming because hip hop had just really gotten off the ground, and hip hop and R&B stations started coming across, and that became part of the thing. Like we had the real segmentation of the format. Like 80s to 90s, we really saw a breakup of formats, and some of them were just kind of wild. Like we had, not just oldies, but we had jamming oldies. We had, classic hits. We had the jack format. Look at all these different formats that came out and just kind of were novelty. But hit music was changing because we also had the rhythmic hit stations. Because crossover was really important. Country was very much strong. Rock music was huge because now you had classic rock and the alternative stations in the 90s. We just had so much music and so much radio available. And it was just a lot of music that came out that catered to radio perfectly. It was just good. The 80s came in a close second, 11% considering it the best. 2000s, favorable, 10% of respondents, especially the 18 to 29 age group, and those with higher family incomes. And the worst decade right now currently is 2020s. Yeah. Among older age groups and those, they also said that 1930s, 1940s received some criticism, but right now, the worst decade for both music and news reporting, the 2020s. But right now they're saying it's the best decade for television in the same study. I don't know what they're going to say about that. And because the 2020 decade of radio is so bad, we take ourselves over to a commentary from a very experienced radio programmer, Lee Abrams, who once served as XM Satellite Radio's chief programming officer. And he's talking to Digital Media News about the state of radio in 2024. And it's an event he was doing at part of their conference. So he talked all about this. So he said this recently, quote, "In my opinion, FM has shot itself in the butt. It's not where the action or future is. Just listen to FM and you'll know why. Or ask around or you'll hear why. There are exceptions, of course, but that's a general mood towards radio, especially among the young. Amazing radio can exist, but we need to open our heads to the reality that the revolution probably won't happen between 88 and 107. He says the future radio industry lies online. It's a new environment. It's where brilliant new ideas that resonate with both the new and old mainstream can happen. Apple, Amazon, and Spotify and others yet to emerge can dominate the radio experience as they do with music consumption. We know Spotify right now is trying to do their AI DJ, and right now Amazon's trying to do their own a DJ to Maestro. Spotify just went for having the Xavier X Jernigan to be the voice of the AI DJ companion. These online DJs are aimed at recreating the experience of creating a focal personality DJ on an online environment, something that Abrams long advocated for when it came to radio differentiating himself. Quote, if you observe the radio business, the conversation is focused almost exclusively on the economic side. That's great, this is America, but when was the last time you heard or read about a radio content war, or a station that's turning up a market with a new sound? Content brilliance needs to be part of the conversation. If the excitement in radio is all about the deals, where does that leave the listener? The business side is what makes it rock, but content is what makes it roll, and you need both. So that was something that already happened recently, but this story came out, and I wanted to go ahead and bring this point across and what they said about it. And of course, I can't watch it because it's behind a paywall, but that's okay. It was interesting to go and hear a few of those things about radio where it's at. And again, radio is always where it is. What can I say? I guess they determine their fate. What can I say about that? Can't say so much about the news publications. Let me get back to that for a second. Because right now, they are hurting tremendously. When I saw Google Gemini right now, and what it's able to go and do, for writing stories for me, and being able to get all the information that's going on out there, current and accurate, old newspapers, publications, magazines, you are doomed. You are definitely doomed. Anyway, come back for another Broadcasters podcast next week. And remember that content is king. And the control of your content is in your hands.